Proverbs chapter 1, verses 1 through 7. The Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel. For attaining wisdom and discipline, for understanding words of insight, for acquiring a disciplined and prudent life, for doing what is right, just, and fair, for giving prudence to the simple, knowledge and discretion to the young. Let the wise listen to their learnings, and let the discerning get guidance, for understanding proverbs and parables, the sayings and riddles of the wise. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and discipline. James chapter 1, verse 19 through 21. My dear brothers, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. For man's anger does not bring about the righteous life that God desires. Therefore, get rid of all moral filth and the evil that is so prevalent, and humbly accept the word planted in you, which can save you. Colossians chapter 3, verse 12 through 14. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourself with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive whatever grievances you may have against one another. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. And over all these virtues put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity.
If you would please rise and join me in the call to worship. O great Spirit, whose voice I hear in the winds, and whose breath gives life, all the world. God, I messed up really bad. O great Spirit, whose voice I hear in the winds, and whose breath gives life to all the world, hear me. I am small and weak. I need your strength and wisdom.
Let me walk in beauty, and make my eyes ever behold red and purple sunset.
Make my hands respect the things you have made, and my ears sharp to hear your voice.
Make me wise so that I may understand the things you have taught my people.
Let me learn the lessons you have hidden in every leaf and rock.
I seek strength, not to be greater than my brother, but to fight my greatest enemy, myself.
Make me always ready to come to you with clean hands and straight eyes.
So in my face, as the fading sunset, my spirit may come to you without shame.
Master, thou callest, I gladly obey. Only direct me, and I'll find thy way. Teach me the mission appointed for me. What is my labor, and where it shall be? Master, thou callest, and this I reply, ready and willing, Lord, here am I.
With
Respect is to be considerate or to hold in high esteem. It is important because in order to have peace when living so close with other Lakota people on the Pine Ridge Reservation, you must respect each other. I also found this in Face Singers. We were in such close quarters, but we had to respect each other to get along. On the Pine Ridge, I saw it by respecting your elders. This means to put them first, for everything. You let them have better seats, and you let them eat first. They do this because they've lived for so long, so they have so much more wisdom than the other people. Another way I saw respect was within Lakota families. People must always put their families before themselves or their friends. Although these are main points, you can find respect in everything Lakota people do, and I will surely try to carry these traits into my personal life.
During our trip, I learned of the great honor of the Oglala Lakota people. Despite the many hardships that these people are forced to face in their daily lives, they constantly uphold their ideals and virtues. With every person whom I interacted with, not a single one was rude or disrespectful in any manner. One such example of this I witnessed would be the great respect that was granted to their elders and kinsmen. Every single speaker we had held these individuals in the highest regard and gave them their utmost respect, whilst honoring the traditions and customs that had been passed down to them. These people showed me what it truly means to be an honorable person, and I am greatly humbled by this experience.
Will the children please come up and join me on the chancel for Children's Moment? Come on in, don't be shy. Come on. Okay, I think we're almost all up here. Okay, have any of you guys heard of the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation? See a couple hands? What do you think it is? Do you know where it's at? Yep, it's in South Dakota, that's right. And I know you had a couple siblings go there with Koyo, and we went on our mission trip there just a few weeks ago. One of the things that I really experienced when we were there is how much they value love. Everyone loves each other. They even welcomed us with open arms, and we'd never met them before, they'd never seen us before, and highly doubt they'll see us again. Who are some people that love you guys? Just throw it out there. Okay. Your family, mom and dad. Exactly. I bet you looking out here, almost all of these people love you guys. You guys are children. We're all children. You guys, myself, a lot of people out here, still children. Maybe not physically, but mentally. In the Lakota culture, they don't have a word for children. They call it Wakanieha, which means sacred beings. They're very important to them. So always remember you are loved. Let's pray. Dear God, please help to remind us that no matter what, we are loved. Amen. Let's return to our families for the remainder of the service.
Okay. In the Lakota language, Ichitupi translates into to give of oneself, which in the English language we call sacrifice. We saw many of the Lakota virtues while volunteering at Pine Ridge, and sacrifice was definitely one of them. One of the most obvious examples of sacrifice in the Lakota culture is their sacred sun dance. This is a ritual performed mostly by men, but also by an increasing number of women each summer. Although the exact details of the dance vary throughout the region, the general idea is the same. The participants spend 4 days dancing in the hot sun, sunrise to sunset, without eating or drinking anything for the entire 96 hours. This fast even includes water. And if that weren't hard enough, each participant is required to cut off a piece of their flesh as an offering at some point during the dance. This may be done constantly throughout or just once at the end. This may seem insane to us, but it is their sacrifice. This, on top of everything else done during the sun dance, is done for their God so that they can worship him and become closer to him. Another example that I saw during the week that was not so obvious was through a woman I met at the end of a workday. The woman was living in a trailer home, and her doors were a couple feet off the ground. She did not have a back deck, and the front deck was ready to fall apart the next time the wind blew. We were there to replace her front deck and build her a back one. As we were finishing, she appeared outside the back door, and we met her for the first time. We soon learned that she had been out all day feeding the elders of her community who needed a meal. I was completely amazed. Despite her own lack of comfort, she still sacrificed her time to help others. In addition, she was leaving for work soon after we left to provide for her own family. The people of Pine Ridge and the culture of the Lakota taught me a definition of sacrifice that I did not know before. In years past, I would sacrifice a couple of cans for the pantry and feel great. But now I know that sacrifice means so much more. It means to put your family's needs above your own. It means believing in a God so deeply that you would do anything for him. It means giving yourself away for something or someone else. I can only pray that I will one day be half as generous as the Lakota are today.
The Lakota word for truth is wawakake, which translates to that which is real, the way the world is. However, the way the world is and how we view it are two different things. The truth can be viewed from many angles, and that which is real is a matter of opinion. Therefore, truth is a matter of perspective. Depending on how you view something, what you know is the truth may be changed or altered as your perspective changes as well. Perspective is something easily changed by experiences, thoughts, emotions. Regardless of the perspective you take on something, there is always another side to the story. This was demonstrated to me quite vividly on this mission trip. After spending a week serving and talking with, and more important, listening to the Native American people of this reservation, my perspective has definitely taken a 180. Before this experience, a trip to Mount Rushmore would have been fun. I would have enjoyed hearing about this great country of ours. But after this experience, and with a brand new perspective, it was quite different. After learning about the atrocities committed against the natives of this country, after hearing their stories straight from their mouths, Mount Rushmore was far from pleasant. When the music stopped and the cheery tour guide voice rang out over the speakers, I could tell it was going to be interesting. What followed, or what I heard of it, was a brief history of America, a story told completely from the white perspective. This isn't me saying the white perspective is wrong or bad, simply that it is only one side of this story. The one side of the story we heard that day was considerably less graphic than the history as we heard it that week. Not to say either side is wrong or right, but you have to have both sides in order to know what happened. You have to have both perspectives in order to know the truth. The side of the story we heard that day angered me, perhaps unjustly, but it angered me nonetheless. It angered me to the extent of getting up and leaving just 20 minutes into the presentation. When they spoke about the Native Americans, who happened to be the original inhabitants of this country, and they did it very sparingly, they seemed to rest the blame for this genocide heavily on the natives. And yes, genocide, because that is exactly what this is and was. What little they said about these people was heavily based on excuses we had for why we murdered and confined a proud, once free-roaming people. Things like westward expansion. Such trivial things as wealth were the reason for mass killing and relocation of entire tribes. An entire nation of nomads was herded like cattle onto reservations. But none of this was spoken of in the presentation. Instead, they moved the Native Americans and supposedly only killed them because they were dangerous and hateful towards us. And perhaps some were, but that is still only one side to the story, only one half of the truth. Now, clearly, we weren't there. We didn't witness these events, and we only know what is in our textbooks and what has been told to us by our teachers. To blame ourselves for this is silly. We are not responsible for the actions of our ancestors, but that doesn't mean we can't fix them. I heard a quote that week, and although I'm not sure who said it, this is what it says. If the reservations were a mistake, we would have fixed them by now. Well, I'm saying they are a mistake, and they can still be fixed. So little is known about them. What we do know is the outside perspective. Without being inside one of these reservations for yourself, it's impossible to know what it's really like. It's impossible to know the truth. But through education and a look at the inside perspective, I do believe things can change for the better. By rotating the image, we can glimpse a different world, a different truth. We can see what we haven't seen before, what so few have bothered to see before, the Indian perspective.
The virtue that I related with most is compassion, specifically relating to a place called White Clay, Nebraska. The population there is currently 12 people. My group left Remember around 7:45 in the morning on a sunny Friday. As it was 7:45 and me being a teenager, I went straight to sleep in the van. I was woken up at about 8:30, and this will likely be the only time in my entire life that I don't complain about being woken up. We were there in White Clay, Nebraska. Population of 12, almost as many liquor stores as the amount of people living there. There were a lot more than 12 people that were sitting on the sidewalk. They didn't look in too good of shape. And all I wanted to do driving past all those people was jump out of the van and hug them or find some way that I could help them. But if I learned anything from my time working in Pine Ridge, what they wanted more than my help is for me to understand their situation and be compassionate towards them and their story. This is the most powerful lesson I have been taught in my life.
When you think of bravery, you imagine people saving lives and fighting crime, like a superhero. When you hear about the poverty and alcoholism in Pine Ridge, bravery probably isn't the first word you think of. What about how there's little to no homelessness because families living in 3-bedroom trailers will invite 15 to 20 people into their homes to stay? What about working 3 jobs, still barely scraping by, yet they still go out and volunteer at soup kitchens and to help extended family? Bravery is defined as the mindset to risk what we value for a higher purpose, and you see it every day with the interactions between Remember and Lakota people. A group of 60 people would split up and go to homes we've never been to, meet families we've never met, and do jobs that we've never done before. When we went there, we broke down all of our social barriers and went out and just did everything that we could to make a connection and leave an impression on these people living here. Seeing how they carried themselves in their lives was the strongest thing I've ever seen from a group of people and left a bigger mark on us than we did on them. That's why this mission trip changed everything in my perspective, and I've just strived to care and be loyal and brave for everyone in my life like they do every day.
Every night after we'd get in from our work days or get in from the powwow, we'd have a speaker who would inform us on a cultural aspect of the Lakota reservation. And one of the first speakers we had, his name was Anila Wakan, and we were all very tired, and he announced his name, and he told us the story of how he came into possession of his most sacred item as a Lakota man. It's his calumet, or his peace pipe. He told us about how he received a vision, and in that vision he was guided around by the spirit of a more ancient Lakota man and chief. He was guided around places he was familiar with, a stream with a tree by it where he would eventually go to harness the stem of his peace pipe, a trading outpost that he knew that was just a little while outside of his area of the reservation that he was familiar with, and where he would go to get the stone for the main piece of his peace pipe. And after all that, he's still displayed a great amount of kente wasake, or fortitude. This was because he'd climbed to the tallest tree by the river, and he'd harnessed the stem for his peace pipe. He'd gather all of his belongings, walk down to the trading outpost, and give them to the lady simply because a vision told him, she has this stone in her desk, she'll know what you're talking about if you bring her the items. And sure enough, she did. So, whether it be climbing to the top of the tree or going to the outpost to give this woman just for a piece of stone, I never went into a speaker tired or dying of ennui again. Never again did I go in with that mindset. I wanted to go in from that moment on to all speakers with open ears and a very open mind.
Readiness or liberality in giving. That's the dictionary definition of generosity. I always explain it as giving freely, whether it be time, gifts, or anything else one owns, out of the kindness of spirit and heart, expecting nothing in return. I encountered this on one of my work days in Pine Ridge. My group and I had been roofing a house all morning, and were getting ready to eat lunch. Since it was nearing the end of the week, it was the last work day, we had started to run low, and in some cases out of a few lunch supplies. We had no mustard, no plates, no provolone cheese, which was fine because I don't like provolone cheese, and only a few slices of bread remained. I went around back to grab my water, and when I returned to the front, I was in for a very pleasant surprise. The family whose house we were roofing had seen that we were out of some lunch items and had decided to help us out. They provided plates, a new loaf of bread, mustard, purified and regular ice water, and best of all, a huge bowl of freshly cut watermelon. A simple thank you didn't suffice, in my opinion, but when we thanked them, the family just said it was nothing, and then sat down and ate with us. This struck me, since the entire reason we were there was to help them with something that they couldn't do on their own, and still they gave us everything we needed to be able to adequately enjoy our lunch. The watermelon, though, was what made this moment stick. Fresh produce is not in high supply in Pine Ridge. The stand where they sell it in one of the two grocery stores is no bigger than a bookshelf. The freely giving away of this hard-to-obtain fruit, when already the family did not have much, is, in my opinion, the epitome of generosity. There's a quote on a door somewhere in the church that I walk by, and it reads, "Do not be afraid to give some of yourself away. It will always grow back." Ever since we got back from our mission trip, all I can think of when I see that quote is of this family and of this moment.